Still, when I heard about this, I was thinking China, trade and diplomacy is not always what it seems, of course. So I wanted to get a readout from Michael Shoebridge of Strategic Analysis Australia.
Chris, it is good news to have 5 of our meat producers able to sell their meat in China, but 3 meatworks still can't do that. And I think we're just seeing some of the things that Beijing gives to a tributary state in the lead up to the visit to Australia of Premier Li.
Yeah, this is what it looks like to me. Premier Li's due here within a few days, really. He's coming next month. And, of course, China giving us a little bit of good news to smooth the waters. I'm worried we're being played off a break because we've seen all these economic sanctions against Australia, all that tough rhetoric directed against Australia, and it's almost as if they're trying to keep us in check. When we're a little soft on China or when they want to sort of give us some encouragement, they throw us a bone, whereas none of these things should have been imposed on Australia in the first place, and they all ought to go right now.
Yes, so this is like rose petals being strewn before Premier Li's feet so that he has a happy visit. But another way of looking at it is more like what you're talking about. China was beating us up with a stick by not letting us sell products their consumers wanted. Now they're only beating us with a slightly smaller stick, and we're meant to be really grateful. And the problem I have is our government probably is going to fall over themselves in gratitude.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Are we being rewarded for being soft already? We know that Anthony Albanese was particularly weak, for instance, in response to that sonar attack on Australian Navy divers. Are we being rewarded now for being slightly more compliant?
Yes, we're being rewarded for pretending we have a stable relationship with China, when everything about the security side of the relationship between Australia and China is dangerous and unstable. So every time that the Prime Minister or the Defence Minister or the Trade Minister or Foreign Minister Wong say they've stabilised the relationship, that's a win for Beijing, because Beijing knows when it deals with our military, it's at risk of the Chinese military killing people in our helicopters, our ships and our aircraft. That's not a stable relationship.
So how do we think we should deal with Premier Li's visit? Surely Anthony Albanese and Penny Wong need to, in a public forum, address some of these issues. Make sure that we let China know we're unhappy about the economic sanctions, we're unhappy about its expansionism in the South China Sea, and unhappy with its military threats and provocation to Australian Defence Forces. All of this has to happen publicly, Dan. We should be unhappy, of course, expressing publicly our unhappiness about their meddling within our shores in terms of spies and foreign interference. Surely they need to make some of this stuff public during this visit. Otherwise, we're just rolling over.
Well, Chris, I'm not convinced that when we hear very stern things are said behind closed doors, that that's happening. I think anyone who believes Anthony Albanese raised that dangerous sonar incident last November with Xi Jinping must be his mum. Nobody else believes he raised it directly. So raising it quietly behind closed doors is simply not enough. There's a way to talk about this publicly without getting incredibly rude. You can say we want a stable relationship with China, but that stability has to be in the security field as well. And the Chinese military risking death and destruction to our military is not stable.
Yeah, I know you're right, and I hope that's the way it plays out, because we need to see our Prime Ministers doing something about this publicly during this visit, as you say, not just saying it's been dealt with behind closed doors. Now, Kim Beazley came out, as did Paul Dibb during the week, saying that Australia is in no position to defend itself right now against an invading force. Let's say, hypothetically, against China, we would rely on the US to help us out. This hasn't always been the case. Now, I'm guessing you will agree with their assessment. What I want to know is what we can do in the near term to overturn that situation. What do we need to do first to be able to defend ourselves?
Well, the first thing is to stop doing what Richard Marles, the part-time Defence Minister and full-time Deputy Prime Minister, does, which is to talk about how nothing can be done quickly, and anyone who thinks it could be done quickly lacks wit. There's $765 billion of Australian taxpayer money pouring like a fire hose into the Defence Department over the next 10 years. It needs to be spent in a way that increases our military power in the next 2, 3 and 5 years. How do you do that? You buy some of the incredible capabilities that medium and small Australian companies make. Long-range armed and unarmed underwater vessels, missiles, counter-drone systems, all the things these fantastic medium and small Australian companies are selling to other militaries, but our military refuses to buy.
Extraordinary, yeah, and drones are among that. Thanks so much for joining us, Michael. I appreciate your insights.
Thanks, Chris. Great to talk with you.